Hey guys, Comic Boom here to talk about Miracle Man issue 5. And this issue picks up where the fourth one left off, and Scott Free and Big Barda have resigned themselves to the fact that a death sentence has been passed on Mr. Miracle, and he's just got one day of life to live before he's got to go back to New Genesis, where Orion is going to carry out his execution, because Orion believes that Scott has been infected with the anti-life equation. And in fact, that's one of the questions that we've been wondering from the beginning of this series. Is Scott Free infected with the anti-life equation? And you know, this particular issue, this is slower paced. I'm wondering if I hope this isn't all a bunch of misdirection, because this issue's very interesting. It's beautifully laid out. The art's fantastic. This basically is a beautiful day spent between Big Barda and Mr. Miracle. They're spending a day together, and you know, Scott Free seems very resigned to his fate that he's going to be executed, and he wants to spend his last moments with Big Barda. That seems what it's all about. He makes love to Big Barda. They spend the day together. They go on a trip. They drive around. They talk. They have I think they're intimate more than once. And I think the key to it, I don't know if really much happened in terms of moving this story, except for one thing, and I might be wrong on this, because it's very easy for me to miss stuff here, because there might be some Easter eggs that I missed. But the very first opening page basically is a conversation between Scott and Big Barda, and I think that it carries the day, and it really explains. If you juxtapose the first page to the last page, you really see what has happened here. And basically what has happened is that Big Barda decides to step up to the plate, and she's sort of the symbol of what snaps Scott out of his perhaps his connection to the anti-life, if in fact that's what he's at. Specifically at the very opening page, Scott says to Big Barda, look, you know, you could ask me, you know, to stay. I'd fight. In other words, I don't need to go and be executed. I'd stay here and fight. Just ask me. I'd kill Orion. Just stay. Just tell me to stay, and I'll go to war for you, Big Barda. That's basically what he's saying. But she says something very curious. She says, I can't, Scott. I told you I can't be that. I am not your way out. It's yours. This life, it's yours. You choose if you want to. All I can be is your wife. Now come on, Scott, enough. Tomorrow's your last day. What do you want to do? So Big Barda is basically telling him, look, I can't make the choice for you. I'm your wife. I can only be your wife. So snap out of it. It's your last day. You're going to die tomorrow. What do you want to do? Very odd position for a wife to take, because when I read that, I think, well, if Big Barda loves him, I mean, good God, if my wife didn't even care that I was going to die tomorrow, I mean, instead she wants to just travel, I mean, if I have the ability to save myself, wouldn't she want to save myself? And if she was powerful like Big Barda, I would hope she'd want to save me. So Big Barda's, it almost seems a little bit out of character to me, at least how I would interpret Big Barda. And so following that, Big Barda is the one that's sort of encouraging him, saying, look, no, it's your decision. It's your last day. Let's make the most of it. What do you want to do? And so they go about and they spend the whole day. They have some bondage sex, where, you know, there's a panel where he says, I can always escape, and she ties him to the bed, and he teases her that he can escape, and she, you know, it's very provocative, and it's definitely, this is not Comics Code Authority approved stuff, you know, not that we have the Comics Code Authority anymore, but if we did, this would not pass Comics Code Authority muster. So I won't show all the pages. You'll have to pick it up, but it's definitely adult themed, and there's a lot of humor there. They played the song. You know, most people have a song when they first meet. Well, they played the song when they first met, and that was in they met in the pits of Apocalypse, and you know, so as a joke, Scott got the Mother Box to play the sounds of the damned, and so that's their song. It's the sounds of the damned. So it's kind of a humorous scene. So there's tidbits of humor. He even visits Oberon's grave. Oberon, he discovered had died. That was revealed in issue 1. He they walk by a lake. He reflects on the light glistening off the water. He wins Big Barda a Wonder Woman doll at a carnival. So they're doing a lot of these sort of cliched things. It's sort of they look at a sunset. Scott looks at a sunrise, and then he looks at a sunset. Then they spend time looking at the stars. And even though there's not a lot of stars out, he wants to enjoy the day anyway. And then lo and behold, at the end of the day, while he's in bed, he hallucinates and Funky Flashman shows up. And Funky Flashman is that sort of Stanley looking character, at least how Stanley used to look in the 1970s, when Jack Kirby drew Funky Flashman for the first time in issue, I think, an early issue of Mr. Miracle. And Funky Flashman, this character, basically continues to encourage Scott to embrace suicide, embrace death. You know, it's okay. Try to escape death again. And if you don't, that's okay. It's just suicide. Relax. So clearly, Funky Flashman appears to be sort of the embodiment of the anti-life, or at least that's my take on it. And then, lo and behold, at the end, Big Barda smashes and seems to apparently kills Funky Flashman with her trusty little mega rod there, or whatever you call it. And she says one word to Scott. She says, "Stay." So she goes. Big Barda at the beginning of the comic. Big Barda refuses. Big Barda tells Scott that I can just be your wife, and only you can decide if you want to stay. And then it ends with Big Barda saying, "Stay." So Big Barda, at some point, the day must have had a profound effect on Big Barda that she decided that no, she wants Scott to stay. And remember what Scott said. Scott said to her at the beginning, "If you tell me to stay, I'd kill Orion." So it looks as if this is leading to issue. Obviously, the next issue is issue 6, where could we have a confrontation between Orion and Mr. Miracle, where that could be a pretty bloody battle if obviously Mr. Miracle's going to be fighting for his life. But I thought this is definitely a very romantic comic. It's about the relationship between Scott and Big Barda, and at the end, Big Barda, I think, helps Scott overcome the anti-life, because he's imagining Funky Flashman. Funky Flashman, I think, is sort of the embodiment. Funky Flashman is always the PR spokesman in New Gods lore. He was the PR spokesman for Darkseid and the Hordes of Apocalypse. That's what Funky Flashman was. So when Funky Flashman is saying and talking and yapping away, you know that he's trying to manipulate Scott. So he's probably the embodiment of the anti-life. So when Big Barda kills that embodiment of Funky Flashman and says to Scott, "Stay," that's like saying, all right, enough is enough. Because we're approaching the midpoint of this 12-issue series. So at some point, we're going to need Scott to somehow start fighting back more aggressively against his anti-life, instead of just sitting at his home having sex with Big Barda and drinking milk and staring at his picture on the back of a milk carton like he did in past issues. At some point, this series has got to pick up, and so I'm hoping that it's going to do that. Again, beautifully illustrated issue again. Mitch Gerads, very creative. The 9-panel grids, the coloring, just really good stuff. Mitch Gerads. I apologize, I'm butchering the name. He's active on Twitter. Kudos to Tom King, Mitch Gerads, the way they're promoting their series here on Twitter. It's beautifully illustrated. The relationship between Big Barda and Scott, this is really it's like a Valentine's Day issue, really. And in fact, that's even how the cover with them in front of the carnival, and the other cover with the hearts. And even I worked with the covers a bit, and as you guys can see at the beginning of this video, I put it up there. I had some fun with it as well. This is a really good series. I didn't really pick up any further clues in terms of the narrative, but maybe you guys did. If you picked up any clues in terms of where this might be going in this story, please feel free to enlighten me in the comments below. Yeah, so that's all I got to say about Mr. Miracle number 5, guys. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button, and Comic Boom out.